All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to our next video lesson. So what we're going to do is, this is an in-class project that we're going to try to work on together. Pretend like this is the final exam, say for example, where your job is to create a sphere calculator, and that sphere calculator is going to be based on a sphere class that you're going to create. See, when you create the sphere class, then you're going to be able to determine what the surface area is for that sphere and the volume for that sphere. Okay, so that's what we have over here. We're going to create the sphere class. Now, with the sphere class, you're going to have a header file, and that header file is going to represent the kind of like the meat and potatoes of what this thing will do, a skeletal view. So we'll start off with the word class, and then the name of the file is sphere because the class name is sphere. So we'll just say open and close curly braces. You're going to have public members. You are also going to have private members. And so your private member should be that thing that kind of controls the overall parts. It's the highest level of importance in terms of the noun that represents a sphere. So what do you need to be able to calculate the volume? What do you need to be able to calculate the surface area? What is the fundamental essence of a sphere? That would be the what? Say it louder. The radius. Good. So in this case, we'll say double radius. That's the thing. That's the most important part of a sphere. You have the radius, I can calculate everything. So that means it's dangerous if a user gives me an invalid value for the radius. What if the user gives me a negative number, say, for example? We can't have that. So you see what I'm saying? Whatever the component is, that's the most important part that defines this thing, what a sphere is, then that's probably going to be your private instance variable. All right, so then now over here in the public section, one thing that I could create is the constructor. Somebody please tell me what to type to create the default constructor. What is the name of the class? Sphere. So there you go. The name of the constructor is the same thing as the name of the class. Now this is a default constructor. It's a constructor that does not contain any arguments. See the open and close parens right here? Now let's say that I want to create an overloaded constructor that you did in fact give me a radius parameter, and that allows me to change this private instance variable. Okay, so for an overloaded constructor, what shall I type now? Same thing? Sphere, right? Still the same thing. And what are you going to give to me? Well, let's say that the user is allowed to enter real numbers. So now, this is what I typically do. If the private instance variable is radius, I just simply add the letters PAR for parameter. Or I could have put val, or something that indicates that this is something that you gave to me. The thing that you gave to me is what I'm going to be placing into the private instance variable. So we call this the overloaded constructor. All right, we're going to have to set the value of the radius. So when I create the set radius, is that going to be returning anything? No, it's not. So that's void. And then what I'll do is say set radius. Now, if I'm going to be setting the radius, you're going to have to give me something. Somebody tell me what to type at this point. Integer, character, boolean, what should I type? Double. Double, very good, because radius is a double. So you had better give me a double to assign into radius. And once again, I'll just simply put radius parameter. Well, now it's time to create the double. I'm sorry, to create the get, or the getter function, get radius. Now, in this case, radius is a double. So what will this function return? Double, right? So double, get radius. To get something, you don't require an argument. Notice the open and close parentheses. All I have to do is to simply return whatever the radius is. All right, so I have my getter, I have my setter. Now I'm going to have to create a function that is going to calculate the surface area and another one that's going to calculate the volume. So when you calculate that, you're going to have to return the value back to me. So we'll say double. Can anybody come up with a good name to calculate the surface area? What do you think?
Surface area.
I love it. Yeah. I know what I'm saying sounds very obvious, and I know you're all being shy, but I'm doing that on purpose. I'm doing it on purpose because I want you to see this is not that hard. Once you follow the rules, it's not so bad. Just got to put in a little puzzle together. Calc surface area. Now, in order for me to calculate the surface area of a sphere, what do I need? I need the radius, don't I? So double radius parameter. Okay. That's not the only thing that we have to calculate. We also have to calculate the volume. So once again, you are going to be giving back to me a number, specifically a double. I'm going to create calc volume, but you've got to give me the radius first. So I'm thinking out loud, and I'm asking you guys to give me what seems to be obvious responses, because I want you to feel so comfortable that you'll be able to do this on your own in terms of any class that you want to create. All right, I just saved all my work. Now that's the sphere.h header file. Now I have to create the C++ file. And does anybody remember the name for the C++ file that accompanies this sphere.h file? Do you remember the name? Implementation file. The implementation file is the C++ file that implements this. So that means going over to Solution Explorer, Source Files, right-click, add a new C++ file. The name of that C++ file is called the implementation file. It implements this guy. So we'll say New Item, C++. Instead of source, well, I am going to implement the sphere.h header file. So we'll say sphere.cpp. Whoops, misspelled. There we go. Sphere.cpp. And I'll take this file and I'll move it over here. So I'm going to split the screen. Actually, you know what? Maybe I should, let me see, can I do this? Or split the screen like this. Let me try this, because then I have more horizontal screen real estate. I think that'll be better. All right. If you want to implement the sphere.h file, you have to include it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say include. Now this is a user-defined header file. So therefore, open and close quotation mark. Here it is, sphere.h. I'll just simply double click that. Hit enter a couple of times. So let's just work on these row by row. We'll implement this, and then we'll implement this, and then the next one, and so forth and so on. Let's just implement them one by one. All right. Well, first of all, when we're dealing with the constructor, you just type in the name of the class. What is the name of this class? Sphere. Good. And then, you probably don't remember this, the colon, the name of that is called the scope resolution operator. You don't have to remember that. All you have to remember is that the colon gives you a list of all the members of your class. See the drop-down list right here? So we have a list of all of the members. We are trying to implement this constructor. Well, that's this guy over here, sphere. So I'll simply double-click it. And then it looks like there's an open and close parentheses, so I match that. And then I put the open and close curly braces. All right, what we're trying to do here are to set the private instance variables to some initial value. It looks like I have this private instance variable radius over here. So if you did not give me a radius value, what would you think is the most logical value to set it equal to? Probably 0, right? So set that equal to 0. To set it to 1 or some other value would be to give this thing a size that maybe I don't want to attribute because the user didn't give me that specific value. So we'll just set it to 0. You didn't give me any initial values. as you can see in the open and close parentheses. Okay. We're finished with this implementation. Now we're going to implement this overloaded constructor. So over here, what is the name of the class? It's sphere, colon, colon. Once again, we're going to implement the sphere constructor, but specifically this one over here. In fact, let me just copy and paste this. Copy and paste. I'll put that right here. Followed up with an open and close curly braces. Okay. All right. So here you are giving me a value. I could do this. Go ahead and type in radius is going to be assigned whatever the radius parameter is. I could do this, but the problem is, what if the user gives you a negative radius parameter? Well, then I don't want to create a sphere based on a negative number. The number that you're going to give to me, it better be positive. So why don't I put a little restriction here? Before I set the radius private instance variable in my overloaded constructor, I'm going to say if the radius parameter is greater than 0. In other words, if this thing is a positive number, then okay, here we go. We'll set that. But if that's not the case, if you didn't give me a positive value, then I'm just simply going to set the radius to 0. So this is cool because I can place a restriction based on the number you gave to me. All right, we've just implemented this overloaded constructor. Let me see if I can resize this over here. Now let's work with this guy over here. So it looks like this is a void function. So let me type in the word void. And I need to get access to set radius, but that belongs to a class called sphere, colon, colon. All right, let me look up and down here. Here's set radius. That's the next item that we want to implement. So I'll double click this guy. And then I think I'll just simply copy and paste this. Could you type it? Sure. Just saving myself some time. Open and close curly braces. Well, you're giving me a radius parameter, and you expect me to set this private instance variable to the thing that you just gave to me. Okay, I'll do that as long as that's a positive value. So I'll say if the thing that you're giving to me, namely the radius parameter, if that number is greater than 0, then yes, I will set radius to the radius parameter that you just gave to me. But if that's not the case, then I'm going to set radius to 0. Only if it's a positive number will I agree to set the radius to that number. All right. The next thing that we need to work on is this guy over here, the getter. So it looks like this thing returns a double, so I'll type in the word double. This is from the sphere class, colon, colon, or the scope resolution operator. And let's see here, I want to implement get radius. That's right here. Double click. It looks like there's just simply an open and close parentheses over here. So open and close parens, and then open and close curly braces. The purpose of get radius is to return the private instance variable called radius. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to say return the radius. See, I don't have access to the radius. It's private. So I need something that will give me that radius, and that's why I created this get radius accessor function. Let's go ahead and work with this next guy over here, calculate surface area. So over here, it looks like this thing returns a double. So I'll type in the word double. This is coming from the sphere class. And is there a calculate surface area? Yeah, here it is. Perfect. Double click on this guy over here. It looks like it's going to have as an argument radius parameter, which is a double. So I'll copy, paste this here. Open and close curly braces. All right, so we are going to return the surface area based on an equation. Let me switch back over here to my browser, and let's see what the surface area is. So go over here, because that's what we're solving for, right? Yeah, surface area. It looks like it's 4 times pi times r squared. Okay, so I can say return 4 times pi times r squared, power, radius, parameter, squared. Right? 4 times pi times r squared. 4 times pi times r squared. Now, pow is undefined, and that's because I never included this. Over here, I need to include, is it CMath? Yeah, CMath. So CMath has all those tools like square root and power and tangent, sine, cosine. So I'm going to include CMath at the top. Let me just show you what I did over here. I included CMath at the top, and then I can use power. It looks like I have one more function to deal with, and that's calculate volume. So I'll enter a couple times. Looks like this thing returns a double, so I'll type in double. This comes from the sphere calculator, colon, colon. I want to implement calc volume. Here we go. Double click, and I'll just simply take this guy over here, copy and paste over here, and then add the open and close curly braces. Well, let's see what the equation is for calculating the volume. So switch over here to volume, and it looks like it's 4 divided by 3 times pi times r cubed. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to return 4 divided by 3 times, looks like it's pi, 3.14159, times r cubed. So we'll just use power, the radius parameter, cubed. And now I have implemented all of the items here for sphere.header file. Now I'm ready to create a program that uses this sphere class. So on the board I say to the user, enter the radius, and then they're going to enter whatever that radius is. I think I said 2.5, and so there's the answer for the surface area, and there's the other answer for the volume. So let's see what happens here. First of all, before I continue, any comments or questions? Okay. So, Solution Explorer. We're going to create a source.cpp file. So where it says source files, right-click, add a new item, specifically a C++ file. It says source.cpp. That's fine. Use that. Click add. All right, let me up here. So I'm going to include iostream. Let me also include that new user-defined class that I just created called Sphere, because it has tools in it that are going to help me to determine what the surface area and the volume are for any type of sphere that I create. So using namespace std and int main system pause return 0. Let's go ahead and have some declarations here, and we'll get the user input, and we'll perform some calculation and output in this same section here. So in terms of declarations, let me go ahead and create a sphere. So I'll type in sphere, and let's just say marble. So this is an object called marble, and I'm instantiating that and it's going to be of type sphere. Let me just type in some other names here, okay? You don't have to type anything. I could have typed in ball bearing. Let's see here. I could have typed in basketball. Right, that's a type of sphere. I'll just keep it at marble. So you get the idea. Any sphere is what you can instantiate. And a sphere has a surface area and a volume. So why don't I do that? I'm going to create double radius, because I need to know what that parameter is. And then based on the radius, I can set marble's radius to whatever the value is. That's going to be based on the user's value, and therefore get the surface area and volume. Cout. Let's see, on the board I said enter the radius. Okay, so enter the radius. We're going to get that value and put that into radius. Well, now that I have that value in this calculation and output section, I could take marble dot. Well, look at all the things that marble has in terms of the verbs that act on the noun called radius. I can set it, I can get it, and then based on that, I can calculate the volume and calculate the surface area. Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the radius. Now, notice that when I say set the radius and then open parens, it looks like it's saying you need to give me a double. And that I'm going to call, the double that you give to me, I'm going to call it radius parameter. Oh, I've got the radius over here. So I'll just give you radius, that thing that the user just provided. Well, now that I've got that, I can calculate the surface area and the volume. So let's say Cout. And on the board, I think I just say surface area. Okay, so surface area. Now, the surface area is going to be based on that marble. That marble has a function called calc surface area. All right, so here's surface area. Now, it looks like surface area needs the radius. So I could have created it that it didn't have to have the radius because that was already provided for here. So again, it's up to you how you want to create your functions. Here, you have to give it the radius. Okay, so I'll give you the radius. And then I'll say go to the beginning of the next line. Cout volume. And that's going to be based on marble dot. All right, looks like I got this function over here called calc volume, and it also needs a radius parameter here, as you can see. It needs a double. Specifically, it needs the radius. And then we'll go to endel. All of the hardware, look how small my program is. All of the work that you've done is in the implementation file of this class called sphere. All right, let's see what happens. Let me run the program. And I think in my example I typed in 2.5. So it says it should be 78.54 on the board. And yeah, if I round up, that's okay. And then it should be 65.45 for the volume. 65.45, yep, that's correct. And the way that you were able to do this is by creating the sphere.cpp file and the sphere.h file. The class file called sphere that has all of the tools. Radius is the noun, and everything else are the verbs that act on that one noun. And that's it. So this is Professor Robert Solis. I hope this video lesson was helpful. Have a good day. See you next time.